Lesson 1-3 is subtracting integers. You'll want to follow this rule at the top. To subtract integers, you're going to always add the opposite. And then you follow the same rules for adding integers. So let's go through these examples. If I have 5 minus a negative 1, I'm going to add instead of subtract. And since my 1 is negative, I make it positive. So I have 5 plus 1, which equals 6. On the next example, I start with my negative 4, because I never switch my first number. It's always the second. I'm subtracting, so I add, and the opposite of negative 6 is a positive 6. When I follow my rules, my 6 is bigger than my negative 4, so I subtract those. 6 minus 2, or 4 is 2. And since the 6 is larger, it's positive. On the next one, and this gets confusing for people too, I'm subtracting, but that 7 is positive. Do you see over here how this 6 was negative? This one is positive, so I'm going to add, and instead of a positive 7, it's going to be a negative 7 because it's already positive. Okay? Different signs I subtract, and I get a negative 6. 7 minus 1 is 6. The 7 is larger, so my answer has to be negative. On the last example, I have a negative 3. I'm subtracting, so I need to add, and this 3 is positive, so it needs to be a negative 3. A negative 3 minus a negative 3 is or plus a negative 3, is a negative 6. I have to add them because they have the same signs. On the next set of examples, we're going to go ahead and use our number line. So we have 3 minus 5. Okay, so again, we're going to add the opposite. It's going to be 3 plus a negative 5. So again, I start at 3. I'm at 0. I move over to 3, right? And then I'm going to add 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my solution is a negative 2. On the next one, I have 2 minus a negative 3. So I'm going to rewrite it as 2 plus a positive 3. So I start at a positive 2, right? And I go 1, 2, 3 more. And I get a positive 5 for my solution. Okay, now counters, they're my favorite. Let's talk about how counters work. We're going to use counters to model the subtraction problem, okay? So I have 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I need to take away 7 of them, but I don't have any positives. So I have to add in what are called 0 pairs. So a 0 pair, is a positive and a negative. So I need 7 of those. I'm going to do all my positives first because mine are a different color. And you can just use a plus sign on yours. And then I have my 7 negatives to zero these all out. So I have 4 negatives and I have 7 0 pairs. Okay? Now I can take away my 7 positives, right? There's 3, there's 7 total. So now when I add them all up, I have a total of 11 negatives if I count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So my solution is a negative 11. Okay, on the next one, we're starting with positives. Oh, I did that backward. I usually use yellows for positives. So I have 8 positives, right? And I need to take away 7 negatives. I don't have any negatives to take away, so I'm going to add in 7 of them using 0 pairs. And you can just do the plus minus signs because you won't have a color. So now if I have to take away 7 of those negatives, because I'm taking away minus 7 negatives, they're gone, right? They're gone. So what I have left is these 8 plus 7 more positives, or 15 positive. And that's how counters work. They're more visual. On the next examples, we're just going to use our rules for subtracting integers by adding the opposite. So we leave the negative 7, but we add, and the positive 2 becomes negative. So that equals a -9. Same signs, add. Again, you start with the first number and then add the opposite of the second number. So instead of minus a -3, it's +3. The signs are different, so you subtract and get 2, and it's positive because the 3 was positive. The next one is 3 minus 7, so we'll do 3 plus a -7. Different signs you subtract, and you keep the sign of the larger absolute value. The last one must be -4 since we're down here. So -8 minus a -4. So the -8 stays, you change it to addition, and the -4 becomes positive. The signs are different, so we subtract and get 4, and since the 8 is larger, it stays negative. Okay, guided practice. Go ahead and get your books out. Pause if you need to. So make sure you're on page 22 of your book. That's where your guided practice is. Okay. The directions say to explain how to find each difference using counters. So we have 5 minus 8. So we're going to start with 5 positive counters. I can't take away 8 because I don't have enough. I only have 5. So I'm going to have to add 3 0 pairs so that I have 8 to take away. And remove 8 positive counters. And then you get a -3 is what's left. So if we did that, we would have had 5 positives, right? And then we have to take away 8 of them, so I have to add 3 more in there, right? But there's 0 pairs, so I have to put those negatives in. If I remove them, take away 8, I'm left only with 3 negatives. That's how it works. Okay, the next one, we have to start with 5 negatives. So start with 5 negative. I have to take away 3 negatives, so I don't have any 0 pairs to put in there. Remove 3 negative counters, right? And you're left with, you are left with 2 negatives. So solution is a -2. Now in the number line, so we're going to use the number line to find each difference. So a -4 minus 5 becomes a -4 plus a -5 because the 5 was positive. Okay, so I started at -4 and I add to that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives, and I end at a -9. On the next example, I have 1 minus 4, so the 1 stays the same. I'm adding, but this 4 is negative. So start at a +1 and go 4 negative. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you end at a -3. On the last ones, we're going to just use our adding the opposite. So 8 plus a -11, which will give us a -3. On number 6, we start with our -3, and we add a +5 and get 2. Number 7, you have 15 plus a -21, so I'm going to subtract those with different signs and get a -6. On 8, I have a -17. Instead of subtracting, I'm going to add a -1 to give me a -18. Number 9, 0 plus a +5. So our solution is 5. 1 plus 18, so I get 19. 15 minus 0, you could rewrite it, but you already know that, is plus a negative 1 for 14. I probably just solved that one as 15 minus 0. 12 is a negative 3 plus 45, so I have to subtract and get 42. 13 is 19 plus a positive 19, because it was negative, plus plus, and that gives you 38. And the last one is negative 87, and I'm going to add to it a positive 87, which gives me 0. Our last one says, how do you subtract an integer from another integer without using a number line or counters? So you will add its opposite. The first number stays the same, but the second number becomes the opposite. So like 6 minus 8 becomes 6 plus a negative 8 to give us a negative 2.